Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Steamboat Real Estate and Investing, your inside track to real estate, mountain living, and intelligent investing here in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, with me, your host, Ryan Cox. Now that we are 2 months into 2026, we're going to take a look back at 2025. Now that the dust has settled with all of the data, I've had a chance to step back, assess it, analyze it. I want to go over some key stats with you to give you a high-level understanding of where the market is at. We're also going to take a deeper dive into single-family homes, condos. I always think it's fun to see some of those record-setting sales, so we'll take a peek at those. And most importantly, we're going to talk about how this positions buyers, sellers, and investors as we head into 2026. And lastly, we're going to look at some of the new developments coming down the pipeline for 2026. There are a lot of them. So with that said, I hope everybody's doing well. Happy Blues Break to everybody who lives in Steamboat. For those of you who do not live in Steamboat, the school system has 2 breaks, one in February, one in April, and Blues Break is kicking off tomorrow. So happy Blues Break, safe travels. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the podcast. All right, we're going to start off by looking at our top line numbers. We're going to look at sales volume, total transaction count, and number of listings for the year. I think the biggest takeaway as we look at this graph, the biggest change 2025 to 2024 is this blue line. That blue line represents number of listings. So we saw a large uptick increase in number of listings from 2024 to 2025. Now that felt like almost like a glut of inventory that we saw. But the reality is, as you look at this long-term trend, it's really just a normalization and a rebalancing of supply, I think, which is healthy for the longevity of our market. Looking at sales volume, you can see that we were relatively flat year over year. 2025, we logged 1.169 billion in sales. The other interesting thing is we saw a slight dip in transaction count or number of properties sold. In 2025, we saw 852 units sold as compared to 901 in 2024. So what that means is we're seeing higher price per square foot and higher sales price transactions occurring in our market, which is a common theme you've heard me talk about. We'll look at that in another slide here. All right, let's take a closer look and see how those sales broke down in different price brackets. So this table here shows different price brackets from less than 500,000 all the way to over 7 million. I'm going to point out a couple of interesting things here. The bulk of our transaction volume is coming from this 1 million to 1.5 million price range. We had 111 units sold. That represented 18% of our transactions. And in that price bracket, average price per square foot was $750 a foot, 33 days on market median, 69 days average. And in that price bracket, sellers were getting about 96.82% of their list price, or buyers were getting about 3.2% off of list price. What's really interesting to me as I look at this table in comparison to the last table is these higher end sales. So we saw 25 sales over 5 million, with 14 in the $5 million to $7 million range and 11 in the over $7 million range. So of those 25 listings, they're actually driving more sales dollar volume than this $1 to $1.5 million range. And that's what I was referring to earlier, where we're seeing basically flat total sales volume year over year, but a dip in transaction count. We're seeing more of those high-end properties moving. The other interesting thing about this table is that there is a perfect correlation with average price per square foot and price range. Now, that's not necessarily a given, but what it does mean is those higher-end properties are indeed getting higher price per square foot. And in that over $7 million range, we're seeing up to average price per square foot of $1,679. As we look at 2026 and future years, I expect that to keep climbing. We're going to see some really high-end base area development delivering some record sales points, price points. So I do expect to see this general trend continue. All right, so let's take a look and see how these sales break down by product type. We're going to look at single-family homes, townhomes, condos, and land in the downtown Fish Creek and mountain areas. So first thing, I think what's interesting optically is the number of units sold. Looking at all of these product categories, looking at the line graph, you can see, of course, similar pattern, similar trend and trajectory since COVID years 2021, 2020. We've seen a reduction in units sold. Now that said, as we look at single family homes, you can see that we've seen steady increases in median sales price. Starting with 2020, we had a median sales price of 1.22 million, and we wrapped up 2025 with a median sales price of 2.58 million for single family homes. Now we did north of 150 units of single family home sales, and those sales averaged 83 days on market. Now we're going to take a look at some of those record sales in the single family home category. I'm going to slide those over here. So you can see the record-setting sale for 2025 was actually really technically a duplex, 2813 and 2815 Trails Edge, though they were sold together, so we'll lump them into this category. List price was $20 million. Sales price was $19.675 million, and sold price per square foot, $1,433. We'll share a little eye candy here. This property is located right off the right-of-way cat track. Many of you have skied by this property many times. If you look up on the right side, you can see the property. So clearly beautiful home, landmark sale at the base area. As we look at the number 2 position, it is another slopeside property on right-of-way, 2965 Trails Edge. This is the Over the Edge Chalet. This home's been in the rental pool over the years, hosted the likes of Justin Timberlake, Kid Rock, many others. Also, you guys have skied by this property many times. Pretty stunning property. A little more eye candy for you. And this property was listed at 18.5 and ultimately sold for 17.45, $1,753 a square foot. And looking at the third highest sale in downtown Fish Creek Mountain areas, this was 747 Anglers Pond, a very exclusive enclave in the Fish Creek Falls area. Now, this home was listed at $11 million, sold for $11 million. Sale price was $1.679 million, and a beautiful 5-bed, 6-bath home, about 6,549 square feet. So, of the top 3 single-family home sales, 2 in the mountain area, 1 in the Fish Creek Falls area. Let's dive back into our sales data. Let's look at townhomes. For 2025, the median sales price for townhomes was $1.48 million. You can see a little more volatility, a little more consistency over the years in townhomes. They have not held quite as strong as single-family homes. We saw average days on market of 68 days, and we saw sales volume right around 110 units sold. Condos, we saw a median sales price of $883,000. That took a dip from $948,000 in 2024, with right around 200 units sold in 2025. Average days on market 71. All right, looking at some of those record-setting condo and townhome sales. The highest price sale was new development, the Crawford Square off Burgess Creek Road. So this unit closed at the end of December, just barely before the new year. This unit was listed for $6.75 million, ultimately sold for $6.35 million, 1,760 square foot. This is more of a townhome configuration. Kind of got a commercial look from the outside, but really luxury finishes, luxury feel on the inside. Incredible ski area views, perched up on the hill off of Burgess Creek Road. And then we have 2 units from, no surprise, one Steamboat Place taking the number 2 and number 3 positions. This unit 703, is a 4-bed, 4-bath, 2,500 square foot unit. For those of you who aren't familiar, one Steamboat Place is located right at the base area and is arguably has been the highest end condo development in Steamboat. Of course, that's going to be challenged here with some new projects coming to market, like the Amble. Number 3 position here, another 4-bed, 4-bath, OSP, one Steamboat Place, property unit 609, listed for $5.5 million, sold for $5.2, or $2,276 a square foot. Now let's take a look at the pending inventory in the condo and townhome segment. As I mentioned, several new developments coming online 2026, 2027, and beyond. Most notably, the Astrid, as far as current pending sales. So the Astrid and the Amble, as I previously mentioned, are some of the new developments where we're seeing active listings and some pending contracts as well. So when we look at top 3 pending in condos and townhomes, you'll see number 1 is 6-bed, 7-bath, 3,600 square foot unit at the Astrid, which is going to be north of 60 units when it's fully built out. It's on the south side of the mountain. And the list price for this unit is a whopping now $9.55 million at $2,600 a foot. We'll skim through a few of the renders for this particular unit. We'll talk a little bit more about this development as we wrap up and take a look at what is to come in the development pipeline. Number 2, in the pending condo and townhome segment is another unit at the Astrid, 4-bed, 5-bath, 3,200 square feet, $8.3 million, also listed at $2,600 a foot. And then the Amble, which we've talked about a bit. This is a 3-bed, 4-bath, listed at $6.2 million or $2,533 a square foot. So we're going to see some major breakthrough in the condo market segment as far as price per square foot and sales price. Now, the real laggard in 2025 was land. As you can see, land was the only product type that dropped in number of units sold. We saw right around 20 lots sold in 2025 and also had quite a higher number of average days on market. Average lot price in the downtown Fish Creek and Mountain area was $705,000. Now, I would say the general reason for this is lack of quality in buildable lots. A lot of the lot inventory that was on the market in 2025 was challenging, sloping lots, lots with a lot of granite, expansive soils. So I think that coupled with construction costs drove that slowdown in lots. Now, that said, coming into 2026, if you are a lot owner looking to sell, I think there is some pent-up demand for quality lots, lots in strong neighborhoods that are also flat, fairly straightforward utilities, fairly straightforward building requirements, foundation system, etc. So as we look at those top lot sales, the first one, a little bit more of a developer buy. This is Chadwick Flats lot that is zoned to be multifamily, and it was listed at 2.5 and sold at 2.4 million. And then the next 2 lots were at the range in Wild Horse Meadows. And I would say, similar to my comments earlier, these lots are flat. They're now infill lots. I think the reason that these lots are still moving, there's a couple. Number 1, this is the green zone. So new product built can be rented on a short-term basis. That's going to be really appealing to the broader market. Also, these are pretty easy lots to build on. They're flat, but utility hookup, straightforward. So generally turnkey lots to build on. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on lot sales activities in 2026. And of course, construction cost is going to be a big driver of that. We had a few interviews in 2025 discussing construction costs, and those costs widely vary from, say, $600 a foot all the way up to the sky's the limit, really, especially on some of these new higher end developments. So that is where lots wound up in 2025. Now, the last chart I want to look at is listing activity by month. So as you can see here, we have number of active listings represented by the blue bars, and then the gray line chart shows units sold. Now, it's no surprise that during the summer, we see a major surge in inventory, and I think it really helps to look at this visual. The big thing that jumps out to me is the jump from April to May and then May to June. You can see coming into April, we had in the mid 300s of active listings. By June, we have 500 listings, so almost a 60% increase in number of listings in those 2 months. So if you're a seller, I would suggest get ready earlier. I worked with a client who wanted to wait until the middle of summer. We wound up coming online a little bit early, anticipating that surge of inventory. And that strategy really played out. We had well over 20 showings, a lot of interested parties. Ultimately, we only received 1 offer. It was a cash offer, and it was a full price offer. But I think we would have struggled had we waited, say, 30 days. We came on in the very beginning of May. And had we waited to mid-June, I think we would have had a lot more competition and probably would have seen some erosion to our ultimate sale price. So if you're a seller, I would suggest get ready early, particularly for that single family home product. Now, if you're a buyer, I think it's really interesting. You see the number of active listings tick up through the summer, peaking in August. So if you're a buyer, being a bit more patient, if you have that luxury, may pay off, and that may put you in a position to A, find the perfect match, and B, have a little bit more negotiating power as the market is flooded with that inventory. So overall, we are coming into 2026 with more inventory. It's a much more balanced market. But of course, the biggest thing that will drive the market are interest rates. We haven't talked about interest rates yet. So let's cut over to Mortgage News Daily. I like to use this website to track mortgage rates. You can see in 2025, we peaked at an average of 7.26%. Now, this is the 30-year fixed. This is a one-year view, Jan 1 through 12/31. So we peaked at 7.26%, and you can see as we wound down the year, we were at about 6.2%, so dropped a full percentage point. Now we have a new Fed chair replacing Jerome Powell. That's Kevin Warsh. Trump appointed Kevin Warsh, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he decides to manage policy and where rates go in turn. That, of course, is going to be the biggest thing to watch, in addition to other general macroeconomic inputs. But ultimately, we're going to keep a close eye on those as we get into 2026. And as mentioned, there are a lot of really new, exciting developments. I would say the high-end luxury development cycle for Steamboat has arrived. We have some major developments coming in, and we're going to run through those quickly to wrap up this podcast. All right, looking at those base area developments, the first project we've discussed is the Amble. Now, that sits over by the Steamboat Grand, and that has a unit count of 42 residences, price points between 1.7, probably more like 2 million, and 8.5 million, with anticipated completion in mid-2026. Then behind that is the Astrid, with a unit count over 60 units, price points averaging around 7.75 million. Of course, that's a moving target as they get into the development and the market evolves. Timeline for that project is estimated to complete in 2027, and they're beginning with the townhomes first. That's what we saw earlier in those pending listings. Here's a look at the Astrid. And then behind that is 1700 Ski Time Square. Now, this project sits adjacent to the parking garage in between Ski Time Square and Burgess Creek Road. That project has a unit count of 23 residences. Pricing hasn't been officially released, but projected to be in between 5 to 10 million, around 2,500 a square foot. And that timeline is still a little bit fuzzy, but they are taking priority reservations, and I'm happy to provide more information on this and any project if it looks compelling or interesting to you. And then the Stockman, there was an article about this project in the Steamboat Pilot just in the last day or so. This is a massive project. This site sits next to Torian Creekside, next to the Magic Carpet, over where the Magic Carpet was on the T-Bard or north side of the resort. And the unit count for that project features 95 residences and 59 hotel guest rooms. They're going to have resort-style amenities, spa, wellness, sanctuary, fitness, restaurants. So that is quite a big development. So lots of activity at the base area. And of course, we didn't even scratch the surface of other things going on around town, like the Glen, which is a single-family residential project on the west side of Steamboat, or Stagecoach Mountain Ranch, a massive project that I hope to cover in the coming months. But hopefully this gives you a good sense of where the Steamboat market ended in 2025 and where we're headed. If you want to chat on anything real estate or anything Steamboat, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email is ryan.cox@steamboatsir.com. Again, ryan.cox@steamboatsir.com. Thank you so much. If you're going on vacation for Blues Break, enjoy. And I look forward to staying in touch. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you next month.